Okay, how's that? Good morning, my name is Cherie Hudson. I missed if there was an introduction, so I'll just very quickly say I'm a psychiatric social worker with Los Angeles Unified School District. I've been at Roybal Learning Center, a high school in downtown Los Angeles for, it'll be 4 years at the end of the school year. I would also like to start by thanking Cal State LA School of Social Work staff who invited Leah and I here today to share a piece of our story. I'm truly honored to be here and kind of shocked as well. On the registration form, I remember indicating that I would attend the presentation as well as the lunch, but I don't remember signing up to be on the agenda. So in any case, here we are, and I am so thankful for these few moments of time with you. It was only 4 years ago that my coordinator, Martha Marquez, asked me to become a field instructor. I wasn't licensed yet, and I hadn't been in my current position for very long. Although I fondly remembered my school social work internship, and I knew that I eventually wanted to get back to my profession as a field instructor, I didn't think that I was ready. In fact, I was incredibly anxious about the responsibility. Like losing sleep and stomach aches anxious, like talking about it nonstop to everyone I knew anxious, and catastrophizing all the time anxious. I can still hear the stream of steady thoughts that were running through my mind at that time. The tune went something like, what do you know? You still need to learn how to do your own job. What can you possibly teach to someone else? You're not an expert and you have nothing to offer. For me, becoming a field instructor felt risky. I reasoned that if I agreed to put myself in a position of teaching, modeling, and guiding aspiring social workers on the best practices of our profession, I would be faced with not knowing all the answers and not being perfect. God forbid. The risk of vulnerability and exposing my flaws and weaknesses was quite a frightening prospect for me. Those thoughts never really stopped, but thanks to Martha's genuine and persistent encouragement, they were muffled long enough for me to be persuaded that hosting interns wouldn't be the craziest decision I had ever made. It only became harder to resist when I was being cheered on by loved ones. I may not have fully believed in myself at that time, but others did, and I definitely trusted their judgment. As I stand here now, I'm so grateful for the confidence that others had in me because it gave me the courage I needed to take an invaluable risk. Once I took that step forward, put it into the universe, and committed to accepting interns, I stopped worrying so much about what I did and didn't know. Instead, I put all my energy into excitedly planning for their arrival. And now I'm not going to lie, once my first 2 interns showed up, I went straight back into panic mode. It took that entire first year, and each year since then, for me to start accepting that being vulnerable wasn't so bad. In fact, I realized that as a school social worker, I was vulnerable quite often with my students and families, and I began to see it as a strength. I started to understand that being sincerely empathic and compassionate requires vulnerability. That in order to recognize the emotions of another and to experience a profound desire to help, we have to first be willing to face the darker places within ourselves. I'm still trying to be okay with what for me is a scary reality that to truly connect with others, we have to risk being rejected, judged, and maybe even misunderstood. By no means am I suggesting that vulnerability is a comfortable space for me now, or that it's easy, or even that I jump at every opportunity to practice it. However, I am saying that I try to choose openness more often than not, and that the rewards of being vulnerable in my relationships have been immeasurable. I believe now that I'm at my best when I'm being authentic, imperfections and all. At least most of the time, I believe that. Serving as a field instructor has blessed me with opportunities to work alongside students like Leah and to experience projects like the Compassion Games, all of which only reinforce my decision and bolster my commitment to preparing the future social workers that I'm fortunate to host. As Leah described, our journey together this year has been characterized by some risk, vulnerability, and challenges. When she first presented her article about the Compassion Games being implemented within the walls of the California Institution for Women, I didn't even have to finish reading it to know that we were absolutely going to bring it to Roybal Learning Center. To me, it was a no-brainer. How could we not launch a project that promoted connection and kindness? One that would nurture a healing, safe, and transformative culture on campus. There were setbacks and disappointments along the way, to be sure, and a few times I wondered what we got ourselves into. Despite the resistance and the occasional cynicism, we forged ahead knowing that the end result of promoting compassion could be nothing but good for students and staff. As Leah shared with you, our relationship grew from the experience of the games. I didn't realize that we were embarking on a process of reciprocal learning and that I would grow so much as a person and as a professional. Our differences complemented each other just as much as they occasionally caused some friction. I learned so much about being vulnerable from Leah's modeling of authenticity, and several times I was deeply inspired by her integrity and her enthusiasm. Leah trusted me with holding her story, which, as she shared, was heavy and quite painful at times. She reflected back my strengths and encouraged qualities of leadership that I didn't know I had in me. For all of that and so much more, I'm grateful for knowing Leah. For me, this profession has always been about relationships and empathy, about being with others in the dark space that was so beautifully articulated by Brené Brown in that animated clip we just watched. It's about sitting not only with our clients, but with our colleagues and our interns when they're stuck and overwhelmed, and helping them see that they are not alone. Social work is about being a mirror, as Leah so often reminds me, so that we can reflect back the strengths of those we serve. Each year I tell my interns that social work is not about knowing all the answers or fixing all the problems. It's about listening and connecting. And more than anything, it's about relationships. I tell my interns that the students they work with may not remember which evidence-based practice was implemented or how they scored on the depression scale, but they will remember how they felt when we were in session. It was the relationships in my early childhood and adolescence, the good and the bad ones, that brought me to social work as a profession. And it's the relationships with clients, colleagues, and I'm now so proud to say my relationships with interns that fuel my passion for this work and motivate me to keep learning and to keep taking the risk of vulnerability. I would like to leave you with this quote from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., spoken during his speech at Oberlin College in June 1965. It's been a favorite of mine for as long as I can remember, and I think it speaks to what we've been talking about. All I'm saying is simply this, that all mankind is tied together, all life is interrelated, and that we are all caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. For some strange reason, I can never be what I ought to be until you are what you ought to be. And you can never be what you ought to be until I am what I ought to be. This is the interrelated structure of reality. And by believing this, by living out this fact, we will be able to remain awake through a great revolution. Everything really is connected. We are all connected. And together, we will not only remain awake through the revolution, but we will be leading the way and empowering others to be courageous by being vulnerable.